All right, let's get right into it. We're going to look at a piece of ancient text that, at first glance just seems like a long list of do's and don'ts. But what if it's something more? Like a literal blueprint for how to build sacredness from the ground up. That's what we're digging into today with Exodus chapter 30. I mean, think about it. What actually makes a place or an object or even a person holy? Is it just a vibe? Some kind of innate quality? Or is it something you have to carefully construct? Well, this ancient blueprint we're looking at says it's definitely the second one. It gives you a step-by-step guide for separating the everyday from the divine. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the incredible role of smell. Yeah, smell in defining what's sacred. Then, we'll talk about the price of belonging. After that, a life or death cleaning ritual. And finally, we'll see how all these pieces fit together to create these really powerful boundaries. Okay, first up, the scent of the sacred. This is fascinating. Before you could even see or touch something holy, you would smell it. And this wasn't an accident. Scent was a fundamental part of the design, a way of signaling to your senses that you were about to step into a completely different reality. The text lays out two very specific sources for this holy aroma. First, there's a golden altar. On this altar, incense had to be burned every morning and every evening, without fail. So you have this constant sacred fragrance. But then there's something even more special, a one-of-a-kind anointing oil. And listen, this oil wasn't just some nice perfume. The holy anointing oil was basically a tool for transformation. Its whole purpose was to sanctify, to take something totally ordinary, like a table or a person, and officially upgrade them to a state of being most holy. And just look at how precise this recipe is. This isn't a vague, add a little of this, a little of that. It's a strict, almost scientific formula. 500 shekels of myrrh, 250 of sweet cinnamon, another 250 of calamus, 500 of cassia, all mixed into a specific amount of olive oil. That level of detail tells you something really important. This exact scent, and no other, was the official scent of holiness. And you better believe there were rules. The rules around this oil were absolutely ironclad. You could use it on the tabernacle, on the priests, but you were strictly forbidden from pouring it on just any person. And you definitely couldn't try to copy the recipe for your own use. The penalty for messing this up, it was severe. You'd be cut off from his people. It's pretty clear holiness, at least here, demands exclusivity. All right, so from sacred smells, let's shift gears and see how this idea of holiness extends to the entire community. Our next section is about a mandatory tax, but it's presented as something way deeper, a ransom for the soul. So here's the deal. Whenever a census was taken, every man 20 years and older had to pay up. But this wasn't about raising money for the government. The text is super explicit. It calls this payment a ransom for his soul and says that paying it would literally stop a plague from wiping them out. So this is a payment tied directly to life, death, and atonement. So what was the price for this ransom? Exactly 1/2 shekel. I mean, how specific is that? Not a whole one, not whatever you could afford, but precisely half a shekel. Every single person who was counted had to pay this exact amount. No exceptions. And this next part is what makes it so incredible. The text says, "The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less." Just let that sink in for a second. How radical is that? In this one sacred act, money, power, social status, it all means nothing. The price of atonement, the cost of being part of this holy community, is exactly the same for everybody. Every single soul has the exact same value, period. Okay, so we've got sacred smells, we've got a universal price tag on atonement, but to actually get close to the divine presence, there's one more hurdle, a physical purity protocol. And this isn't just about being clean. The simple act of washing becomes a matter of life and death. The blueprint demands a brass basin, or a laver, filled with water, and its location is everything. It's placed right between the main sacrificial altar and the entrance to the holy tabernacle itself. Think of it like a final checkpoint, a sacred boundary you absolutely cannot cross unprepared. And the ritual for the priests was really straightforward, but totally non-negotiable. Before they could go into the tabernacle or even just get close to the altar to do their duties, they had to stop at this basin. They had to wash their hands and their feet. It was a mandatory, required step to enter that sacred space. So what happens if they just skip it? Well, the text is brutally clear. They must wash that they die not. This has nothing to do with modern ideas of hygiene. This is a spiritual requirement with the ultimate consequence. This simple act of washing with water draws a hard line between life and death, and it's declared a statute forever. Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about a special scent, a universal tax, and a deadly washing ritual. What does this whole blueprint for holiness actually create? Well, it creates boundaries. Sharp, clear, unmistakable boundaries. When you look at it, this whole system is built on 4 core ideas. There's sanctification, making things holy with that special oil. There's atonement, the equal price everyone paid to belong. There's purity, the physical need to wash before coming near. And finally, separation, all the strict rules and harsh punishments that kept these holy things completely separate from the everyday world.
And that's really the grand design here. Every single tiny detail, the exact recipe for the oil, the precise half-shekel coin, the specific location of the washing basin, it all works together to build a powerful and, frankly, unbreachable boundary. What this blueprint tells us is that holiness isn't just some vague feeling. It's a carefully constructed environment, built with purpose and defended by absolute, unbending rules.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. You know, this ancient blueprint for creating sacredness might seem a world away, but the basic ideas, they're still all around us. So, what are the anointing oils or the purity protocols that shape our world today? Think about it. The special robes a judge wears in a courtroom, the enforced silence in a library, the specific rituals of a graduation ceremony. What sacred rules, whether they're religious or totally secular, are still drawing those powerful boundaries in our lives right now?